Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Heat Wave 32 teams in 32 days. And we are breaking down every single fantasy relevant player on each team for the upcoming season. Today, we'll be focusing on the Los Angeles Chargers. Go, Chargers, go! I am your host, the fantasy plug, Tim Petropolis, the editor in chief of BrotoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Broto app. And I am joined by my brother, the king of this fantasy thing and lead fantasy analyst for Broto, Matt Ward, the Dynasty Don himself and Fantasy Encyclopedia, the lead writer at Broto, and Santiago Casanova, the genius of fantasy, the Broto lead data analyst, and the developer of the Fantasy Football by Broto app. Speaking of the Fantasy Football by Broto app, if you're watching YouTube, you can see it right on the bottom, as Matt was kind enough to point out. You can download it right now for free anywhere you get podcasts, and it is the only tool you need to dominate fantasy football and become your own expert. Every stat you hear us use today, every single one, can be found on the app. That includes fantasy player cards, fantasy player grades, usage charts, start sit tool, who to draft tool, which is going to come up in handy as you draft, player comps, podcast, consistency charts, game logs, coaching tendencies, articles, rankings, waivers, and advanced stats, including true throw value, true target value, true performance value, adjusted air yards, and true matchup rankings. And this app is for free right now. It won't be for free forever, but right now it's free because of our patrons over at patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. A big thank you to our patrons. You are the reason why the Broto machine keeps pumping. To support the show, join now. And for as little as $3 a month, you can get a ton of extras, including the extra Waiver Show, access to BRoto Leagues, proven DFS cash optimizers, access to cheat sheets, private team consultations, the most unique fantasy leagues in the world, and access to the greatest community in the world, not just the fantasy world, the Broto community on Discord. If you enjoy the show and if you enjoy the app, please consider joining the Discord. Your contributions go a long way. We are jumping into the LA Chargers today, and let's get into their offensive outlook. This is the second year for head coach Brandon Staley. He is the former Rams defensive coordinator, and he is joined for a second year by Joe Lombardi. He has been the Saints QB coach since 2007. Previous to this, he did take a short break stint from 2014-15 as the Lions head coach, but resumed his duties as quarterbacks coach with the Saints until he got this job. So he's coming from there. Obviously, he coached Drew Brees, so he had some success. Last season, they were fifth in scoring offense. They passed 61.4% of the time. That is fourth of any coach not fired midseason and sixth overall. Not big time ads in terms of fantasy relevant ads on this team. They more concentrated on the defense and the offensive line. Tight end Gerald Everett is their big addition. Rookies guard Zion Johnson was drafted in the first round, and Isaiah Spiller was drafted in the fourth round. And they lost Jared Cook and Andre Roberts. Andre Roberts is the wide receiver who, unless you're playing some leagues do play with return yards. If you were playing with return yards, Andre Roberts was a good player, but unless you don't care about that. All right, let's go to a guy you definitely care about. Justin Herbert finished as the QB2 overall. I must say, man, Justin Herbert's kind of like a guy who just looks the part. It just makes you feel like, all right, I think this guy's good. Plus, he looks exactly like the guy who should be good at this. So, with that being said, how are we feeling about Justin Herbert?
Yeah, there's not much to say about Herbie fully loaded here. He took the NFL by storm his first two seasons as an NFL quarterback. I remember everyone was tank for Justin Herbert. Like, that was the thing.
Suck for the duck. Because he went to Oregon.
Duck for the duck. Duck. Go Ducks. Matt. Oh, yeah. Big Oregon Ducks fan here.
And then people just kind of got sour on him. Like, oh, Justin Herbert. No, not Justin Herbert anymore. Man, I wish the Jets were picking where the Chargers were picking, because Justin Herbert, man, first two seasons in the league, he has totaled 9,350 passing yards.
Holy mother of God.
With 69 touchdowns. To only 25 interceptions. On top of that, over his first two seasons, he's rushed for 536 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. So he's not a zero on the ground either. Like you said, Tim,
he was in his rookie year, so that's an element of the game he added.
No, he was pretty similar his rookie year. He actually ran for more touchdowns his rookie year than his sophomore year, 5 and 3 respectively.
Didn't you have a whole article about Justin Herbert and how he's not going to get rushing work?
As much rushing work as you'd like. Season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Compared to like Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts and such, but then he threw for 5,000 yards, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But yeah, he's not a zero in that category either. He was 9th in points per game as a rookie, 3rd last season in points per game, 2 straight seasons to start his career with an A+ true fantasy grade. The guy, like you said, Tim, he has basically the same exact supporting cast. He's a smash top 5 quarterback pick, is rightfully being treated as such, and that's about it. Like there's absolutely zero reason to fade Justin Herbert, really.
Yeah, for sure. Zero reason. This whole team is kind of the same as it was last year. So let's go into the guy who was the man last year, and that's Austin Eckler. Let's get into the running backs. Has the case for number 1 overall, in my opinion. In our mock draft that we did before we started recording this, he was, right? So has a case, 20 TDs last year, hard to duplicate. But if you're gonna duplicate something, you might as well do it in the duplicate offense, right? So if you're gonna want to duplicate, do it with they just have a same offense. They have a better defense, probably. Rookie guard. So with that being said, how much do you have to say about Austin Eckler?
I mean, yeah, Eckler's a smash value at an RB1 play. You're going to draft him within the top 8 picks, probably. I could definitely see a case for him finishing as the RB1, RB2 in points per game. He was the RB2 in points per game last year with 21.5 per. He just epitomizes like what a league-altering pass-catching back can really give you. He had 911 yards on 206 rushing attempts, so like not the most effective rusher per se on the ground, but supplemented that with 671 yards receiving and a 15.1% target share. So like he's the definition of like a PPR cheat code. He was 4th in scrimmage yards over expected per attempt last season. So like he is an effective runner, but a lot of those points just come from how versatile he is out of the backfield and that he can line up in the slot. He can line up on the outside. He can give the Chargers a bunch of different looks. And like, yeah, it's really, really easy to assume that Austin Eckler is going to get another 75 catches this season and close to 1,000 yards rushing. I don't think Isaiah Spiller is a factor since we're covering all of the running back rooms. He's going to have a similar role to Josh Kelly, to what you saw Larry Roundtree have.
Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson. Well, I mean, Justin Jackson can really step up and play a lead role when someone is hurt. And I'm not necessarily against Spiller being able to be that Justin Jackson type. And he certainly looked like better than that in his days at Texas A&M. But we all know about the terrible combine followed by an even worse pro day, which is not a great sign because usually you have kind clocks at your pro day. And he fell in the draft. So looking at his profile with all of those things combined, Isaiah Spiller does profile out as a career backup essentially. And Eckler is the one there. We saw after Melvin Gordon leave, his opportunity share spiked. Like he really can handle an RB1 300 touches per season workload. So Spiller is there to be a Justin Jackson, maybe if Eckler gets hurt, or to be a Josh Kelly, Larry Roundtree, where Austin Eckler doesn't get very many goal line, like inside the 3 rush attempts. So like he's a big guy for that. But I mean, as far as fantasy upside, I don't think I'd draft Isaiah Spiller. And I mean, like I said, I'm considering drafting Austin Eckler in the top 10.
Oh yeah.
I think
100%.
Spiller is really just like a handcuff of sorts.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no one should be drafting him to get like
and even then, like
flex value.
Even as the handcuff, like I don't think you're gonna get Alexander Madison level upside handcuff play. Like I don't think you're going to get a Tony Pollard, you could flex this guy upside handcuff play from Isaiah Spiller. It is really purely this is where the volume's going to fall if Eckler gets hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's take a break right now. Good time to take a break. And with that break, we're about to break your mind. The BRoto tip of the day, the Fantasy Football by BRoto tip of the day. Look, one of the things that fantasy people, even though this is more of a rookie mistake, but even veterans will see like, oh man, that guy had 96 yards and a touchdown last week. I must pick him up in my waivers. Little do you know, he was on the field for 20% of the plays. He had one big play for like 75 yards and a touchdown. And he was hardly on the field. And that's why usage stats are so important. And usage stats are so hard to find for no reason. But on the Fantasy Football by BRoto app, we bring it directly to you. So, Cass, why don't you take over and show the usage?
So usage stats, it's exactly what it sounds like. We call it team dashboard because you get their snap percentage, their target percentage, the total number of snaps, total number of targets, the weighted opportunity rating. If you look at running backs as well, you get the rush percentage, their carries, just everything you want to see. And you can select which week you want it to show for. So right now I have all season, but I can select week 15 and check specific usage stats for that week, and it really is everything or anything you want to see for your favorite team and all NFL teams.
And if
So
you can't
far-
see that, that's snap percentage, and then you have target percentage as well. And for the running backs, you got rush percentage. So not only do you know how much on the field, you know how much they're getting targeted. So you know everything there.
We also
Yeah, I mean that kind of just boosted my Austin Eckler pitch as well. Even in a situation where he got injured and Justin Jackson stepped up and had a huge game, he still had 67.4% of the entire rushing production of the team. So, yeah, Austin Eckler's the guy.
Yep.
we
Safe to
also
say.
we also updated the weekly usage stats literally faster than anywhere else last season.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Faster than
Yeah, and
anywhere
I mean, like all biases aside, like I'm an analyst. That's what I do. That's what I do for us. It's what I do for my brand on social media. And like, if I wasn't working for Broto, it would be the number one used app on my phone because it's the fastest one that I can get the information
Yep.
that I need to put out to all of you.
All right, let's get into the wide receivers because this wide receiver situation is exactly the same as last year too. And I think that you have yourself a wide receiver 1 in Keenan Allen, you got yourself a wide receiver 2 in Mike Williams, and you got yourself a wide receiver 3 and maybe in Jared Guyton.
Bro,
Maybe
what?
Josh Palmer?
Josh Palmer.
That's where it gets interesting.
Josh Palmer.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said Guyton by accident. I said Josh Palmer. I'm sorry.
Either
Well,
way,
it's
wide
one of them.
receiver
Excuse me.
3.
Possibly. You don't think he can make it in the top 36 if the Chargers go crazy? You're gonna hear my hot
No.
take. You're gonna hear
No.
my hot take in a second. You're gonna hear my
Oh,
hot take in a
okay.
second. That would make it that 3 wide receivers could possibly do something in this offense. But let's go to the like I'm just
You're really
let's go to
making
what's
it
actually
hard
let's
to
go to
predict what it's going to
let's
be.
go what it's actually gonna happen. Right? Like for sure. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are gonna play well. So let's get into these wide receivers. Where would you take these guys and how are you looking at them this year?
I mean, you were right on when you said Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 1 and Mike Williams was going to be a wide receiver 2. Within the team and for fantasy as well, I think that's true. We saw Herbert support both of them at a high level. Mike started up hot, then he just kind of went down as expected. If you look at his historic target share, that's what we expected him to be, not the monster he was at the beginning of the year. So things kind of normalized. And I think that's going to be going forward as well because their target percentage last season were 24.4 for Allen and 20.2 for Williams, kind of like Juju, if you look closely. And their ADP right now is, I think, very reflective of their situation. They're wide receiver 11, wide receiver 21, respectively, right now. I think that's fair. Maybe a little bit low for Mike Williams. You could draft him,
21.
expect him.
21 seems like a deal. Like I would be very
Yeah,
happy.
yeah,
with getting
that is
drafted.
low for him.
That's pretty good value.
Yeah.
It's good value. I think he's not necessarily undervalued because there are some question marks around him. However, that is still a good value for drafts, right? So I can expect him to finish wide receiver 14, 15. So 21 is very, very cheap, steal-ish. Now, when you get to the wide receiver 3 within the team, not for fantasy territory, you have the fight between Guyton and Palmer, which they average 6.1 and 6.2 points per game, respectively. So they're pretty much tied there. Now, Guyton had more snaps. Palmer had a higher target percentage. Honestly, who's going to be the third guy there? I don't care. If I had to take a shot, I would go with Guyton late in drafts because he has the lower ADP. He is wide receiver 107 on Sleeper, and Palmer's wide receiver 80, which is a little bit high, in my opinion. Tim is not going to agree, but that's high for Palmer. And Guyton we saw some big plays from him last season. He was a boom bust guy. And if you pick him up in best ball, wide receiver 100 value, I think that's good process.
Yeah,
I do want to.
Guyton is the guy that caught the Justin Herbert pass last year.
The pass.
Yeah. The pass.
I do want to add piggyback since you just brought up best ball in underdog tournaments. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are basically back to back wide receiver 12 and 13. Big difference for Mike Williams. in the best ball format compared to the typical redraft format because
Makes sense.
in best ball you get the up and down nature isn't as annoying as it would be in a typical redraft league because
Right.
the 2 points doesn't hurt you as bad because you could have someone on your bench just automatically replace him, whereas in a typical redraft league that wouldn't be the case. You'd get the 2 points for Mike Williams. So I do think he has some value there at wide receiver 21 and even at wide receiver 13 in underdog because of the spike week potential. And once it gets to the week 15, 16, 17 tournaments, the fact that Mike Williams could go completely off with Justin Herbert, I do think he kind of makes sense at even at that inflated ADP because of the huge spike week potential that he has on a week-to-week basis.
All right, let's get into the tight end because I think that if the tight end's a part of this offense, if the tight end wasn't a part of this offense, then a wide receiver 3 finish for a Josh Palmer type would be more realistic. But let's
Top 36 is insane, bro. Like not
man.
close to possible.
All right, let's make a bet then. Let's make a bet. How about this?
Okay.
How about this?
Yeah,
How about this? How about this? I'm not gonna say top 36 because that's ridiculous.
Yes,
but I will
right.
say
Thank you.
top 55.
He's not ending top 55.
In points per game.
Josh Palmer,
I don't think
55.
so.
Top 55.
Yeah,
For betting.
I'll take you up on it. I'll take you up on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. Top
Just write
For
it down.
context, they didn't qualify last year to be, I think, top 100.
Oh, maybe I'm biting off a little more than I can chew here. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna look back at that. Like, why did I make that bet? It's like because of your ego.
Or you're a
Because of your
genius.
ego. Yeah, or I'm a genius. Tight ends. Gone is Jared Cook. In is Gerald Everett. Here's the thing though, because you got Parham behind Gerald Everett. And I know Parham was a big dynasty ad. And Matt, you could speak on that a little bit. He was a big dynasty because he's a big dude. He has the ability to catch touchdowns. He's in a good offense. But then they signed Gerald Everett, who has a history with his head coach, his former the former coach of the team that he used to play for. So it's definitely I don't think you can roster either of these guys because I just think they're gonna eat into each other and kind of split an already small pot that you don't want a part of. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start calling Gerald Everett Fetch Everett because it's just not gonna happen.
It's that facts.
Last year with Russell Wilson as his QB and like the breakout potential and all that, he did set career highs, except the career highs were 48 receptions, 478 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Woo!
Blah. Yeah. Last year, Justin Herbert threw for over 5,000 yards, and his top tight end was Donald Parham, who totaled 20 receptions, 190 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He similarly did not really utilize the tight end his rookie season either, with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Jalen Guyton, and top 55 wide receiver Josh Palmer. I just don't think there's really room for the tight end position to thrive here. He may have a couple touchdown reliant, useful performances, but good luck trying to guess where those are going to be. It's going to be few and far in between and impossible to predict, similar to the Donald Parham of last year, or even Steven Anderson had a 2 touchdown game.
I mean, I will. Jared Cook caught 48 balls for 564 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's not the best ever, but let's not just forget Jared Cook exists. He.
I actually did forget Jared Cook existed, but what are you going to do? Either way, Gerald Everett is not someone I'm going to be drafting. His ADP of tight end 22 makes complete sense to me. That's what I think he'll be, a low end tight end 2, and someone you could largely ignore for the most part in almost every format.
Yeah, I'll speak on Parham's a little bit too. Like that, especially because he was a hot dynasty ad, and he saw in the year before last, he saw a pretty decent uptick of every metric across the board in the last 4 games. So people kind of thought he was going to be the next one in. Then Jared Cook stuck around. So yeah, Parham's also coming off of a really bad concussion too. They do have Everett. He's already getting in that. Like you would have liked to seen the production climb linearly rather than him step back down into a number 2 role. Like it would have been nice to see the Chargers kind of not sign anybody. So yeah, even like deeper into Dynasty, like I don't think Parham's ever really going to pan out.
Interesting. That sucks because I bought in. I got a little.
Yeah. Oh,
Parham.
same. I mean, I got a little Trey McKitty because of it too. Like I kind of had to play that backup thing.
Trey
too.
McKitty,
The cat
Yeah.
attack. Also
May
known
as
as.
well. I mean, because especially with tight ends in Dynasty, and this could go on forever, but tight ends in Dynasty, like breakouts happen so late and guys just jump ship on all of these like promising young players because you don't start to see tight ends produce until like their 4th or 5th year in the season. And even in a Dynasty league, it takes a lot for guys to want to hold on that long. So yeah, stash young tight ends, stash them all.
Stash them all.
Stash them all.
Speaking of stash them all, follow us all at. No. Sorry, bold predictions. All
Come
right,
on
guys.
now.
Oh, bold predictions.
My bold predictions. You guys ready?
You didn't make it already?
The
worse.
The Los Angeles Chargers lead the league in offense and win the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Old.
the first
I
part
love
I
it.
believe. The second part is a little bit more steep.
Not really a fantasy bold prediction, and I thought you were going to go with Josh Palmer, but all right, okay.
No, it's just they're gonna have such a
Keep
crazy
it.
offense that everyone's gonna get to eat. Like, if Josh Palmer has 4 touchdowns on the season, he'll be a top 55 wide receiver.
We'll see.
Like, he
Maybe.
doesn't need much.
Gabe Davis had 4 touchdowns and finished as the wide receiver 57. So
There you go. Boom.
Not top 55, like you said.
that's below your.
Come on, 57, 55, same shit.
Not for the bets. Anywho, I'll go next. I'm going to say bold prediction: Justin Herbert and Mike Williams lead their respective positions in touchdowns.
Interesting. I like that. Just a quick tip. Guyton had 3 touchdowns last year, wide receiver 75. So with that, I'm saying he is outside the top 80 wide receivers next season.
That's your bold prediction.
So
I
even
don't
that,
think that's
even
bold.
that 100 ADP is barely going to pay off.
Yeah, I was just gonna counter you on your bad Guyton take and Palmer take. So I'll make it sound more.
It's just a Palmer take. Just Palmer.
Yeah. I mean, both of them. None of them finish top 70.
Nice.
Wide receivers 6 for them.
That's not bold. That's just evening
That's just
out.
rude.
That's just like taking
That's just
the
at
under
ADP.
on my bold prediction. Like just
Yeah, I'm
taking
doubling
you're just
down on
taking the
on the
under
bet.
on my bold prediction.
I'm doubling down on the bet we made.
I rule
Matt,
that
but
it counts.
You're up next.
Thank
bro.
you. He's in the big screen,
Um,
so he knows what's up.
Yo,
I
Michael, you
rule
look
that
like
it counts.
Michael, you look. I don't know what is. You look like you're in a 90s like
So-
like. You look like you're in a 90s like advertisement where you're gonna come in and be like,
Yeah, I told Jay, I was like, yo, this is the fucking lighting you're giving me. I'm in Ithaca right now in Jason's Cornell apartment that he's done with in like a week. So he came to like just finish packing up all his things, and yeah, this is what I was left with. I was like, thanks, Jay, for making me look like an idiot on the heat wave. But what are you gonna do?
You look like you should be in a picture in Teen Beat next to Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
I was already.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
centerfold.
Yeah. Matt, finish us off, bro.
But I kind of set it up already. It might not be that bold. Okay, I'll get a little bolder. We'll go with 3 of them. I'll go Keenan Allen, wide receiver 1, Austin Eckler, running back 1, and Justin Herbert, QB 1.
Ooh,
Overall?
That's
Overall.
spicy, bro.
Nice.
That's spicy.
Overall.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
the spice. I can feel it.
Shut up, Tim.
Make me call. At BrotoFF FF Tim, at BrotoFF FF Mike, at BrotoFF FF Casanova, excuse me, and at at Psych Ward FF, at BrotoFF FF Jason as well. Don't forget at Broto Fantasy and at FF by Broto. Join us tomorrow. 32 teams, 2 days. I see Michael. My lighting's making me look at it like a tan.
Yeah, you got
a tie dye on, bro. I'm looking up.
you win the lighting. That's the only thing you're gonna be winning all season. So whatever.
Peace.